Reactivity, so lunging, barking, growling on leash is embarrassing, it's exhausting, and it's dangerous. And still, people live with it for years. Here's why. Let's talk about all the reasons why leash reactivity is not going away, and we will go from the hardest to the easiest to fix. So stick with me. First, health reasons. I know. It's something we don't want to think about, and it's something that very often gets brushed off like, oh, this is not my dog. But health reasons can be so small. It can be just a little itch. It can be just a little irritation. It can be just feeling a little bit uncomfortable. So it doesn't have to be a broken leg. It can be something smaller, something we only notice when we are really honest with ourselves, when we are really looking, and when we know our dogs really well. So this is sometimes challenging for first-time dog parents who haven't been that long with their dog. The thing is, health reasons often give us setbacks because our dogs, whenever we want our dogs to switch strategies, so the dog is lunging, barking, growling, and we want the dog to do anything else. We cannot erase the first strategy. We cannot erase lunging, barking, growling. We just switch it. So yes, our dogs learn that a different strategy works perfectly fine or even better than the first one, but the dog doesn't forget the first one. So whenever they feel uncomfortable, whenever they don't feel like they can do the new strategy, they slip back into the old one. That's how health reasons often get us back to square one with our training. And what we need to do is get a vet check or get a nutritionist on board, because sometimes it's not a health reason in the traditional sense, but it's a nutritional problem. Sometimes our dogs just eat crappy food and they feel it, right? Or they just cannot digest or process specific things in the food. And the nutritionist can find out what it is. So you can do an elimination diet, you can find out why your dog's itchy, right? And that will make the dog less irritable, it will make the stress level go down, and it will make training a lot easier, or possible at all to begin with, right? Reason number 2 is a too high stress level. A too high stress level is very often an issue of our modern dogs because they live in a world with a lot going on, right? A lot of human things going on, and sometimes it's just too much. It's just too much we are asking of them, or just too much happening to them every single day. And what we need to do is lower the stress level with everything we can. So we see what's going on, what could be too much for the dog, and we lower that. So either not do it for a while or do less, or whatever it is for your dog. And there can be so many different things. So this is something that, again, needs a very close look. That's the second hardest thing to do. And yet it is one of the most important ones, because if the stress level is too high, the dog cannot think right. They cannot learn as well, if at all. So this is something we need to address first. The third one, and this is again a tricky one, and the less time you've spent with your dog, the trickier it is. Some dogs go from relatively calm to insane in a split second. They jump up the escalation ladder, so they don't go through the regular process of doing a hard eye or getting tense or doing a little low growl first. They jump from relatively calm to insane. What we need to do for those dogs is, first of all, lower the stress level. Yes, we're back at stress, because the higher the stress level, the higher the probability that your dog might jump, stops, and go quicker through the process to reactivity. And then we need to teach strategies out of the context. So we need to make our dogs fluent in whatever we want to see before implementing it. And I like to do a default check-in. So I want my dog to check in with me on a regular basis, get really fluent with that, because that helps in the situation. And then we implement it into the real world, into real life, very carefully, so that we catch the dog early enough and we do not trigger the reactivity anymore, because what you practice, you get good at, right? And if your dog practices reactivity all the time, gets really good at reacting, and we don't want that, right? The next thing is constant setbacks. And while setbacks are normal, constantly having setbacks due to surroundings are really destroying your process. So this can be something simple, like you have a fence fighter. You have a dog who barks and lunges at the fence. Maybe your next door neighbor, so you have that every single day, and your dog gets into it with that dog and starts reacting. And while this is different than on leash, it's still aggression. So your dog is practicing aggression toward another dog. We don't want that. Or you walk in a neighborhood with a lot of dogs barking at the fences, so when you walk by, you have other dogs aggressing toward your dog. This is an uncomfortable feeling. This is something where your dog could make the connection that other dogs are actually dangerous, or at least make him feel uncomfortable. We don't want that, right? And it can also be something simple, like other people are walking off-leash dogs, and an off-leash dog is constantly barreling into your dog. Your dog doesn't like that, and so it has to show aggression all the time to keep those dogs away from him, right? That will get you setbacks all the time. Or it can even be your own family. So if you have somebody in the household who walks your dog but doesn't really care about the reactivity and lets the dog escalate all the time, does not do any training, your dog is again practicing the reactivity, practicing what we want to lose, right? Not good. So what we can do is we can avoid the areas where we are prone to have setbacks. So do not walk in a neighborhood where you have to navigate through fence fighters all the time. Teach your dog that the neighbor dog, your next door neighbor, is irrelevant. Or put up some kind of panel or something to block the view. People in the household who don't want to train, let them walk in an area where they don't have to train, where they can just enjoy nature together, right? That's fine. That's awesome for your dog. And do not walk anywhere where people let their off-leash dogs barrel into your dog. That can be sometimes a little tricky, can require a little bit of creativity to find routes that are actually suitable for your reactive dog, but this is something that we need to implement to stop the reactivity, right? Makes training so much easier. The next one is switching methods and techniques too quickly. You need time to learn a specific technique, and your dog needs time to learn that a specific new strategy actually helps, and this takes time. So for a technique or method to unfold its complete potential, its full potential, it needs time, and it's not done in 2 weeks. Sometimes with very mild cases it can be, but usually if you don't see that much progress, but just a little bit, give it time. Stick with a method and a technique for at least 2 months. And if you see no changes, there might be something that has to be adjusted a little bit without switching the whole technique, all right? And the last one is technically the easiest to change, but well, we humans tend to not do it because we don't see the necessity to. And that is when we just don't have enough opportunity to train. Like, I am living very remotely, right? There is not much going on. Yes, we might see a dog like once every 2 years or something like that. And it's from a huge distance, so it's not that big of a deal. And that means that everyday life doesn't provide me with opportunities to train. So the reactivity will remain unchanged forever if I don't go the extra mile and look for opportunities to train. What that also does is, if your dog never sees another dog and then comes across another dog, this is way more exciting than for dogs who live in a city and see like a gazillion dogs on every single walk. It's not that interesting if you see it every day 100 times. But if you see it once every 2 years, it's interesting. So whether your dog is afraid or not, or wants to greet the other dog, this is definitely more exciting. But if your dog wants to greet the other dog, so your dog's actually social, likes other dogs, but never sees another dog, that is a need that is not being met in your day-to-day life. So your dog needs buddies. And yes, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky to find buddies for dogs, especially when there is no one around you could ask, right? You have to drive somewhere and get together. But this is a great opportunity to also make friends. So maybe this will be a nice way to just get your dog, meet other dog owners, and have fun together. And if you want to work on the reactivity, schedule time every week to take your dog somewhere you can actually work on the reactivity. So put it in your calendar. Don't just say, oh, I'm gonna do that when I have time. That is not gonna happen. So really put it into your calendar. Schedule a time for it. Also include the drive there and the drive home. So you actually have a fixed window. You have to do that. Again, if your dog's not feeling well on that day or you're not feeling well on that day, okay, that's fine. Don't do it. But if you have it scheduled on a regular basis, you will be more likely to actually do it. And that will propel you forward in your success with the reactivity. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, this is all nice, but how am I supposed to know which one it is? How am I supposed to know which one is true for my dog? Where can I learn that? Or how can I be certain? And if I'm certain, what can I do? A behavior consultation is the right thing for you. A behavior consultation looks at everything around the dog. So we do check your dog's history, your dog's everyday life. We do have a look at nutrition and what your dog's needs are and all those things. So we do that with you. And we also give you the right methods and techniques for your dog, tailored to your needs. Now, if you want to do that alone, that's fine, but it takes years. I'm speaking from experience. It takes years to learn everything there is. And you will be never done. But it takes years to actually be able to pick a method unless you get lucky, right? You can get lucky on your own, of course. That's possible as well. All right. And there is, if you want to do it alone, one huge mistake so many people make that screws up process entirely. And what that is, you will learn in this video.